Minecraft, a game with infinite possibilities, unpredictable situations, and the ability to do and make whatever you want. But at least you can do all this with a predetermined size, right? That's your cue to... So I made a custom data pack where my size will randomly change every 30 seconds, ranging from 10 blocks tall down to a fifth of a block. And to make things feel more accurate, I also changed things like movement speed, jump height, and even armor values. The full list of attributes is on screen now. I added a few extra features like a timer at the top and my current size on the side to make things easier to follow. This data pack and video took a lot of time and effort to make, so I hope you enjoy. I started off by getting the basics: wood, then stone, then iron. While doing so, I encountered one of the biggest issues with this challenge. Being big really sucks. I mean, look at this. I had to wait an entire minute to be the right size to mine this iron, and even then, I started suffocating before I could get out. I realized that because of this, caving wasn't going to be an option, so I had to find some other way of gearing up. Something else I realized is that being small sucks even more. I have to sprint jump to get around basically anywhere, which is an issue by itself because I face the risk of taking fall damage if I jump off a singular block, and then I have to use slabs to staircase back up, assuming I can even jump high enough to make it up one in the first place. Yeah, I just don't like being short. Anyway, I made a flint and steel, killed some animals for food, or tried to at least, and went to a nearby village. After robbing the locals of their entire food supply, and killing off their only security for my personal gain, I used the iron I got through entirely peaceful means to make myself a bucket, which would be a very useful tool for the rest of this challenge. You see, with the water bucket, I can climb up basically any surface by simply right-clicking it and swimming upwards. This would be very helpful because it meant I no longer need to pillar up with a bunch of slabs, and it worked regardless of what size I am. I still needed more iron for the rest of my tools and armor, so I ran around until I found an exposed cave, which I stripped of all of its valuable resources. Unfortunately, the cave only had enough iron for a chestplate and a few tools, so I went to the seas and searched for more. I got a total of 25 ingots from a ruined portal, a shipwreck, and a buried treasure, which I used to make leggings and a backup shield in case the one I was using broke. Then, I used the treasure map I got from the shipwreck to find a lava pool, which I used to quickly make another portal and head to the Nether. And of course, I got to spawn in the best biome ever, the Needless to say, the spawn sucked. Get too small, you have a high chance of being literally jumped by magma cubes. Get too big, good luck navigating the basalt cave that you emerged from. Knowing my chances of finding anything of value from here were low, I went back to the overworld to look for a different place to make the portal. Fast forward 3 minutes, and I found a second lava pool, made another portal, and went back in. My spawn was somehow worse. Over the next 10 minutes, I ran, found shipwrecks, ran some more, killed some animals, ran even more, and found a village. I used the lava and obsidian from the 2 blacksmiths there to make a new portal, and as expected, my spawn was absolutely abysmal. So without even looking around this time, I instantly headed straight back into the overworld. A few 4 more minutes of running and I found another lava pool. However, this time, it was showing signs of decent terrain navigation, so I walked around for a few seconds and... here's where the problem started. In order to get blaze rods, I would need to make it all the way from my portal to the fortress, kill any blazes that spawn, and make sure I didn't die to anything like magma cubes while traveling from the basalt delta to the fortress, wither skeletons around the fortress, and the blazes that I'm trying to kill, or any of the many other natural hazards that exist in the Nether. Anyway, back to the video. After dying way too much to my own stupidity, I decided to take a break and come back the next day. Man, shut Okay, so maybe it wasn't the next day, but I didn't come back empty-handed. I had a plan. I would go back to the fortress to get its coordinates, then make a new portal at the spot in the overworld, so I wouldn't have to make the entire journey from my portal to the fortress every time I died. This would help speed up the process of getting blaze rods back safely, as well as make sure that my items didn't despawn if I died in the Nether, as if that would ever happen. Not that this didn't come with its own issues, but it was better than the alternative. So, after some trouble making it back to the fortress, I marked on the cord, did some quick math, and headed towards the spot that I would be making the overworld portal. Now there's a slight issue with my plan that I didn't think about until I got to the new location, and you can see the exact moment I realized it. I need 10 obsidian for a portal. The only reason this is an issue is because I don't have enough diamonds for a diamond pickaxe, meaning I would need to manually transfer a lava bucket between the lava pool and the new portal 9 more times. I'm no stranger to mundane tasks. You would know this if you watched my last Minecraft challenge, but the problem began to grow when this happened. The main reason this is an issue is because I was planning on making 2 buckets, one with lava for the portal, and one with water so I could navigate the terrain easier. But with only enough iron for 1 bucket, that meant I was forced to take only lava to the new portal, making terrain navigation way harder. And of course, as if the game was scripted to antagonize me, it turned night while I didn't have a bed near me. So this meant there would be mobs chasing after me that I couldn't do much to defend against with my size, and the only iron I had to my name was on me in the form of a bucket. Eventually, I caved, quite literally, and began digging down to see if I could find some iron. But of course, this doesn't come without its own issues. I mined down further and further, constantly suffocating the blocks I was too lazy to mine out if I got too big. 5 minutes go by, no iron. 10 minutes, no iron. 15 minutes, cave. Cave? I had found a deep slate cave with diamonds before finding iron. After suffocating and then getting my stuff back, I began exploring the cave to find iron. The whole reason I came down here, keep that in mind. I walked around for a total of 30 seconds before I noticed possibly the greatest cave I have ever witnessed in Minecraft. I had to go back to the surface to smelt my iron, but when I came back down, I got to mining. Almost 30 minutes later, I resurfaced with 15 iron, 47 lapis, and enough diamonds to open a small jewelry business. With my newfound riches, I could drop my old plan of manually moving lava to make a portal. I could just mine the obsidian itself. So that's what I did. I deconstructed my old portal and got a little more obsidian so I can make an enchanting table. Then, with all my newly created gear, I said goodbye to this old base, if you could even call it that, and set off to my new portal. Once I got there, I finished the portal with the obsidian I just mined, set my spawn, and went in to check if it was the right spot. And thankfully it was. Before heading in for real, however, I decided to make an enchanting table, meaning I would need leather. So after a less than short journey to find a cow, I returned with the leather, only to be greeted with the creeper trying to blow up my stuff. Amazing start to the day, you know. Anyway, I made the enchanting table and got myself set up with some low level enchants, to hopefully make my chances of surviving just a little higher. Before going into the Nether, I spotted a dog and went to tame it, cause why not? But with all the preparation done, it was finally time to head in, for real this time. I was back in the fortress, this time more determined than ever to get the blaze rods and head back home. I waited by the blaze spawner for blazes to spawn, and attempted to block up any spots that would make it more dangerous for me. But of course, things can never go smoothly, and I got overwhelmed by blazes that spawned while I was too small to reach them. But I wasn't gonna let that stop me. After surviving on half a heart, I ran around trying to find a better way to get back to my portal until this happened. All of my items, gone like that. Now, they wouldn't actually despawn if I wasn't in the Nether, but who knows what could happen to them on my way back. Worried, I ran back without taking anything, to no avail. Deciding to actually think, I took very weak tools, a few blocks, and food, hoping that I could just barely make it to where I died and get everything back. But when I got there, only my XP was left. A wave of panic set over me, before I realized what might have happened. So, running out of the fortress with almost nothing, I scaled the stony hills behind me to find all of my items sitting right there waiting for me. Pause. So the question that I think a lot of you may be asking right now is, what happened to your stuff? You see, because I had died partially inside blocks above me, when my items dropped, they spawned inside the ceiling and kept clipping further up until they could find an empty place to stay. And the reason I knew this would happen? Because it had already happened to me. When I was mining down to find iron earlier, I suffocated more times than I would like to admit. And every time it happens, my items would spawn inside a wall and rise to the closest empty spot above them, which made it really annoying to pick them up. but in the end it helped because it meant I knew exactly what to do in the situation. So with my items recovered and my spirits less than restored, I went back to finish the job. Or I would have if I didn't run out of food immediately after. I decided to use mushrooms because there were no animals around for a 200-mile radius for some reason, and all other options for food that I could think of sucked. Plus it gave pretty good hunger and saturation, so I decided it would be fine for what I'm doing, at least until I can establish a better food source. With the good enough for now food supply, I went back into the Nether to get the rest of the blaze rods I needed. I ended up exploring the rest of the fortress to see if I could find any blazes without having to go to an actual spawner, but it ended up being more dangerous than the spawner itself, and my shield broke before I could make any real progress. I went back to the overworld to make a new shield, and let my dog chase away some skeletons that were nearby. It turns out, while I wasn't looking, it followed a skeleton through the Nether portal, which I only realized after I went back through. Not knowing how to reasonably get it back to the overworld, I figured I could let it help me kill blazes. Surely, having my dog in a place full of fire and having no way to heal it will end well, right? Yeah, maybe I should stop getting pets in this game. Anyway, after a lot more suboptimal gameplay, and me forgetting to eat every once in a while, I managed to get up to 6 blaze rods, which would make 7 when combined with one I had on my camp already. I would have stayed to get more, but this place is risky enough as is. Plus, what were the chances of actually going to need more anyway? After I got back, I decided to farm up some more mushrooms, pack up my stuff, and head off. To where, you may ask? Well, I needed ender pearls, and getting them from the Nether wasn't going to cut it, so I was left with no other option than a village. My plan was to just run in a straight line until I found a village, but I ended up finding the one I passed a while ago. When I got there, I started to set up a few Fletcher villagers I could trade sticks with, but when I remembered how horrendous chopping down trees is with random sizes, I decided to settle for a simpler, slightly more morally questionable method of getting emeralds: string duping. After messing up the design more than once, I had myself a working string duper, and all I had to do was watch. After 10 minutes of training, I managed to level up a cleric villager to sell ender pearls, and it only took another 8 minutes to get enough to start looking for the stronghold. With only 12 eyes, I began to follow the eyes to the stronghold. I took only what I thought I would need, because I planned on coming back to the village after I found it. I ended up digging down at the wrong spot twice because I didn't want to waste any more eyes on trying to find the exact location. However, after an entire hour of running around aimlessly, I decided I would rather get to the stronghold with no eyes than dig around for the rest of my life. So I used most of my eyes to pinpoint the exact area to dig down at, and entered the stronghold with only 6 eyes left. Now I could not tell you why, but for some reason I decided to leave and run all the way back to the village without even looking at how many eyes were in the portal. It didn't end up being that big of a deal. It was only 2, meaning I made 2 more eyes than I had to, but this should have been the first thing I was thinking of at this point, and for some reason it never crossed my mind until I had already left. So after running all the way back to the village, farming some more mushrooms, and buying more ender pearls from the cleric, I realized I would need more blaze rods, which meant back to the fortress. I made it back to the village with my blaze rods, made the rest of the eyes, and gathered some more resources before saying my goodbyes to this village. Then, as underprepared as I've probably ever been, I set off for the stronghold. I made it to the stronghold, this time with enough ice to enter and fill them in. Then, with no other preparation that I could use to stall, I went in. And of course, I started off by immediately looking at an enderman, making it attack me and almost knock me into the void. I managed to pearl over to the main island, but now I had an angry enderman chasing me, and I hadn't even made any progress toward dragging me. Of course, the dragon just can't leave me to fight my battles alone, and has to send in an assist by shooting dragon's breath at the pool of water that was keeping me safe from the enemy. So you can imagine me running around with an empty bucket in my hand, trying to survive being hunted by an enderman, waiting for dragon's breath to disappear so I can get my water, and having made zero progress towards the dragon. I wasn't really looking forward to the rest of this fight. I managed to get my water back, and the dragon took care of my enderman problem, so I could finally start taking down the crystals. Or I could have if I didn't immediately anger another enderman that wanted to break my shield. After dealing with the second enderman and making sure to not look at it anymore, I actually began taking out the crystals. I don't know why I tried to quest there. I realized I needed stuff to bridge back to the island, because a certain somebody made sure I couldn't do it the first time. So I made a wood pickaxe to get a few blocks from around the stronghold. Using these, I was able to bridge far enough to make a jump back to the main island to get my stuff back. Now I just need to get the last few crystals without dying and... Okay, now I get the rest of the crystals without dying. Oh, actually get that one. So with all the crystals down, I just needed to kill the dragon. Now, let me ask you something. When preparing to kill the ender dragon, should you A. Get lots of beds and explosives and open killing it quickly when it perches? B. Get a bow and lots of arrows to shoot while it flies? C. Enchant your weapons with actually good enchants so you can stand a chance at using melee weapons? Or D. Just go in blindly and hope something works? I think you know which one I went with. At this point, my food supply was dwindling, I had no idea how to efficiently defeat the dragon, and frankly, it wasn't looking like I had any way of winning. I could barely stay alive for a few minutes to get a few hits in. But then I realized, I didn't have to stay alive. I could just keep running in there, try after try, dying over and over again, each time only getting a few hits on the dragon. It would suck, and it would be very tedious, but it would work. Death after death, I would slowly whittle down the dragon's health until there was nothing left. It didn't matter how many times I got flung into the sky with no chance of surviving, or how many times I got attacked by endermen that I arguably didn't even look at. I was determined to beat this. I was determined to reduce the dragon's health to 0. I was determined to free myself from the self-imposed prison of a challenge. So that's what I did.